Good day, everyone, and welcome to another session of the Artificial Intelligence at Work. My name is Vlad Vidanovic, and I have a privilege of hosting this session today. At the start, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of our beautiful country throughout Australia. In particular, as I stand today here in Canberra, the Ngunnawal people, and recognize their continuing connection to land, waters, and culture, and pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. Today we have a privilege to have a couple of speakers that are joining us from San Francisco and Geneva to talk about the hybrid models that are used to create contextual intelligence within the World Economic Forum. Before we start, I will just do a couple of introductions. First of all, for those of you that are new to the Artificial Intelligence at Work seminars, about this time last year, we have started together, joined the Institute of Information Management at DAMA Australia, to present seminar series that is focused around the artificial intelligence and its practical use and experiences. It all actually sparked as part of the Information Awareness Month last year when we had several dialogues, and one of them was that gets a lot of interest around artificial intelligence, which prompted IIM and DAMA to get together and organize this series of seminars. And this particular one is the second seminar without the month of May, which for 15 years now has been selected as a month where we collaborate with various organizations within information, knowledge, records, and data management communities, where we explore and promote and celebrate better ways of handling information and how we manage that very important asset in our lives and in our work. So I mentioned IIM, the Institute of Information Management, is a professional association that provides forums for information professionals to exchange their experiences and become better at dealing with challenges with managing modern practices of managing information. I'm now going to introduce you to Andrew Smiles, who is from DAMA Australia.
Unmute. Hi everybody, I'm Andrew Smiles from DAMA Canberra. DAMA Australia is the representative of DAMA International, which is International Association for Data Management Professionals, and we're very pleased to be involved in this AI at Work initiative. Thanks, Vlad.
Thank you, Andrew. The sponsors of today's session are Automated Reasoning Alliance in partnership with Anari AI. We have another guest from all the way from Europe representing sponsors who is going to tell us a couple of words on behalf of sponsors. Jovan Stefanovic is on the screen, so please, Jovan.
Yeah, good morning. Just correction, it's Jovan here. Good morning from Europe. My name is Jovan. I'm a founder and CEO of Anari AI, and it's our great pleasure to support such a great initiative here and this really exciting topic. We actually partnered with the Automated Reasoning Alliance, not just to provide support for this kind of events. We partner with a goal to really pair the humans and machines in a quest of bringing practical, scalable, ethical, and trusted AI solutions to solve life and different kinds of business problems. Automated Reasoning Alliance, our partner in Australia, is a based research and solution development company. It's focused on utilizing modern technologies and cognitive platforms in order to optimize business processes, improve different kinds of management of information assets. Our company, Anari AI, is a company that actually focusing on some deep tech problems, complex problems, where we combine our unique expertise actually in designing, developing, and implementing artificial intelligence algorithms in a range of different industry domains, where we have really a specific expertise in domain of software AI, but also with the hardware elements. Together, we are focusing on the rapid deployment of innovative AI-based solutions, and utilizing a resource pool that augments like internal domain knowledge of our clients with the valuable support of our experts. We have our, as we call it, innovation hubs in Canberra, in Amsterdam, Guangzhou, Hong Kong, and Novi Sad, Serbia, where we are trying to bring like solution to the world complex problems in different kind of domains. And as a sponsor of this event, we really hope that you will enjoy today at this really lovely AI work seminar. And yeah, once again, thank you for all for being here.
Thank you, Jovan. And just before we start, a couple of logistical advices. So please, by now you have been registered to attend and obviously logged in. Please do vote. We do have polling questions for you. Also, if you do have any questions, I encourage you to use your Q&A option as part of the Zoom control panel, which is usually on the bottom, by default, on the bottom part of your screen, or other alternatives are not enabled because of the number of participants. So we had to mute audio and chat as well as raise hand functionality. So again, please use your Q&A for asking any questions. We decided to start this AI at Work session with some entertaining news. Most of you have heard by now that for the first time, Australian song has won the Eurosong competition. I would like to share with you a brief story about this achievement.
With no Eurovision this year, organisers have come up with something a little different instead, an artificial intelligence song contest. 13 teams from 8 different countries took part, and spoiler alert, Australia has just been voted the winner.
Uncanny Valley wins the first AI song contest.
Yep, their song, Beautiful the World, has taken out Eurovision's very first AI song contest.
Thank you all very much. We are honoured to win this.
It's Australia's first Eurovision win ever. The song actually came second in the judges' votes, but it was the People's Choice votes that pulled it up to #1.
Talking about making history, the first Australian victory in Eurovision was done by an AI system.
So how did they do it? Well, a computer was fed a bunch of previous Eurovision songs and sounds of Aussie animals to help it come up with the melody and lyrics.
But isn't using a computer to write your song for you a bit like using a calculator to do your times tables?
Well, sorta, but not really. The whole point of this competition was to see how well a bunch of musos, tech heads and AI could work together to make a banger track. It was still up to the team to choose what samples to feed the machine, record vocals, mix in other instruments and master the track. So, a lot of hard work. And it's hard work that's paid off.
It's been a fun journey. It's been a collaborative journey. We won! Yeah! We won!
Dreams to live on the wings of happiness. Dreams to
Without further ado, now I'm going to introduce you to the speakers for today. So as I said, the topic is how you create contextual intelligence using hybrid models. And our guests are Pierre Saouter from Geneva. He's a data scientist with World Economic Forum, and Tooba Durraze, so she's strategic intelligence platform leader at World Economic Forum. I am now passing over to you.
Hi, my name is Tooba. So I work with the World Economic Forum. I have a background in computer engineering, and I'm currently getting my PhD in data science. Very excited to be here to talk about some of these issues.
And hello, my name is Pierre Saouter, as you mentioned, Vlad. I'm a data scientist at the World Economic Forum, and I look after part of the technical implementation behind our digital platform that we will present to you today.
Okay, it's your turn. So when we're about to start, but before we do, I'm going to run a poll that we would like you to respond, and hopefully we'll give some poll question that will hopefully give us additional items to discuss. So on your screen, hopefully you have the first question, which is basically talking about potential dimensions related to the COVID-19 pandemic. And we need your opinion, which of those is the most overlooked by businesses? Please spend a couple of seconds to give us the answer. And while we do that, I'm going to pass it back to our speakers today.
Great, thanks Vlad. Pierre and I, as you said, are super excited to be here to start talking a bit about hybrid models to create contextual intelligence. So I wanted to start off with a quote to kind of set the stage. It's by Sarah Menker, who's the founder and CEO of Grow Intelligence. And Sarah says, as we improve technologies and data usages to go vertically deep in a given field, we need more than ever to keep in mind the connections with the rest of the ecosystem. The quote signifies the importance of having both a horizontal, but then also a vertical look while processing information, whether you're doing it in a personal capacity or a professional one. But it also highlights the problem that we all face, which is the amount of information that is out there, and how does one effectively create insights from it? So as we talk about this today, there are three questions that I would love for everyone to consider and to keep in mind. One is, how can you create signals from noise? So we know there's a lot of information out there, but how do we actually use the information and funnel it in a way that you can derive insights from it? Secondly, how do you actually benefit from these signals? Sometimes you find it's a lot easier to kind of get these insights, but not as easy to implement these insights in a way that's meaningful and contextual to gain some sort of business advantage. And thirdly, how do you effectively communicate the signals? So while we understand that it is important for you and yourself to kind of get these insights, how do we then take that and bring it back to our communities of practice as well? And as we talk about the technology that enables this hybrid intelligence, please look at it as something that helps you answer these questions and not in isolation. I know as technologists, we always have a bias towards being very excited about the back end and like the information in that sense, but it's good to kind of take a step away from it and then see what this is effectively enabling. Now let's take a bit of a step back and talk about why SI was created. So strategic intelligence, which I refer to as SI, is a part of the World Economic Forum. Most of you may know the World Economic Forum from our annual meeting in Davos, which is set in this scenic location that you see pictured here. But the forum obviously is much more than that, right? We have a 50-year history of bringing together world leaders in a multi-stakeholder fashion to solve global issues through public-private cooperation. What we realized is these communities produce a wealth of information, and there's no way to sort of take advantage of it. And this is where SI was born. To put it quite simply, it's a suite of tools designed to reduce your time to insight and decision-making. Now, how do we go about doing that? One of the ways in which we do that is by combining the best of human intelligence and machine intelligence in a very dynamic visual framework that, as I was saying, reduces your time to insight and supports in your decision-making. What actually goes into the human element is We're looking at about 1,000 publications from 300 sources, and our sources range from academia to think tanks to research institutions, all vetted through the forum's network, and then synthesized by machine learning. It may also be interesting for you to see kind of like who's using SI, to give you a bit more context into that. So currently we have about 350,000 registered users and 5,000 subject matter experts with upwards of 2,000 sign-ups that are happening every week. And also to point out that this community then feeds into this concept of hybrid intelligence that we will be speaking about today. So as I was mentioning before, SI is again a suite of tools that are divided into 3 main parts. The first part is Discover, and the idea behind Discover is you use this part of the tool to learn more about a particular topic or an insight area that you're interested in. The second part is Monitor, which will help you understand sort of the emerging themes and trends in particular issues that you yourself are interested in. And the last part is Create, which is harnessing the information from our expert communities and from our stakeholders to create your own transformation map. So you can have a bit more of a customized outlook into what that might look like. At this point, we're actually going to start a live demo of the platform where I'll walk you through some of the features, why they matter, and also what the technology behind this looks like. So as I was talking about earlier, first up is Discover. From the Discover part of the platform, you can essentially explore a particular topic. We cover upwards of 250 topics, and they range. So we cover economies, global issues, industries. Our industry section covers 4IR technologies such as blockchain and AI, and then also sustainable development goals. So as you saw earlier, Vlad just polled you on some of the key issues in relation to COVID-19 and what might be important in that context. Now that you've voted on that, let's kind of see how that ranks against where current COVID-19 map stands. So when I say transformation map, I'm actually referring to the visual that you see on the left-hand side, which gives you context into what's important in a particular issue. So how you go about reading the map is like the middle where it says COVID-19 is the issue node, or it's like the center ring. This is what the map is based on. And then you actually read the map from the outside in. So the inner circle that you see of right now is what we define as key issues. So we take the top 5 to 6 key issues of a particular topic. One thing to note is these are curated in conjunction with internal and external stakeholders who are subject matter experts in that domain. And then we mentioned which stakeholder actually curated it there. And the outer ring, if you take a look, are actually topics that exert an influence into that particular key issue. So let's just say we want to explore the media's, the rise of media during COVID-19. And if you look at it, currently it highlights influences like global governance and a couple of other ones. Now let's just say that, I'm interested in COVID-19, but then I saw global governance, and now I'm interested in seeing what global governance has in store. So you're able to click on the node and actually go to the global governance map. We call this phenomenon map hopping. So the idea here is to look at it as horizontal discovery of topics and issues, right? So essentially, you may be interested in one particular theme, but you see that there's an external influence to it, and then you might discover other topics that may be of interest to you. It's almost like following a breadcrumb from a map to a map. You can also look at some of these issues in more of the vertical domain, which is like going super deep into the context behind some of these topics. So let's just explore COVID-19 again as a topic that you'll explore in depth. And then you do so by looking at some of the tabs that you see on the right-hand side. So I'll pass it back to my colleague Pierre to talk a little bit more about the tabs that you see on the right hand.
Thank you, Tooba. So we're here today to talk about hybrid models of intelligence. And from an artificial intelligence perspective, it is actually quite interesting to note that often when we present the strategic intelligence platform, people would expect that the transformation map itself, this visual, is actually the result of a machine intelligent process. When in fact, most of the transformation maps in the platform, like Tooba mentioned, are the result of a manual expert creation. Where we truly leverage machine intelligence is actually in the right panel here. So our goal was to complement the expert view with various types of external evidence and also link into more concrete actions for our constituents. From an information management standpoint, the question is the following. How does one categorize and present high volume quality content in a way that is informative and meaningful to the users? So we think that today there's hardly any other way than to rely on an automated machine intelligent approach to do that. So I want to emphasize that all the knowledge that is surfaced in the platform is actually accessible to the public. There are a few additional features that you will see today that correspond to various types of membership tiers. This is, for example, the case for the Events, Initiatives, and Stakeholders tab. Now, our most popular tab is the Publications feed here. So what we do is we process up to 1,000 articles per day from trusted sources of knowledge, like Tooba mentioned. And what we've done is developed a fully automated pipeline to process these articles and tag them against the various topics that we have available in the platform. Now, the important point in terms of so-called hybrid intelligence is that there's a constant feedback loop between a layer of human moderation on a representative subsample of the articles that enter the system, and basically an optimization of the algorithms to systematically judge what is the most relevant content to bring back into the platform. So what I mean by that is that not all the articles are surfaced into the platforms, but only a subset of what is deemed the most relevant. Later in the presentation, I will speak a little bit more about the technical implementation. Now, every article comes here with a machine-generated summary, and you always have access to the online version of the article. One thing that you can do, of course, is look at certain filters, select a given language, maybe focus on academic journals, and you will see exactly what you're looking for. We like to say that the platform attempts to meet the learners at different levels of expertise. And so an expert in the topic might be more interested in this academic literature than looking at the map itself. Now, the other thing I want to show you is that when you select a given key issue here, so for example, the workforce impact, you'll see that the list of articles here is recalculated to display a new subset. And what's happening here essentially is leveraging the underlying tagging of the articles to present those articles that seem to have the most meaningful relationship to the network of interconnections that you have selected with that key issue. So the second tab here is the videos tab. It's pretty much self-explanatory, I believe. You can see here that you get a small summary of what the video is about, and you can view every video directly in the platform. Now, one thing I want to mention, though, is that the video tab came a little bit later in the process of building this platform, essentially due to the difficulty of aggregating quality textual content to feed the tagging mechanism. Now, my favorite tab is probably the data tab here. You can find there a number of resources that provide contextual information on the related topic in the form of various analytical dashboards and data visualizations. Where available, we also provide and display the data produced at the World Economic Forum, such as economic indicators like the Global Competitiveness Index, for example. There's a specific partnership that is worth mentioning here. It's the one with the Create Lab at the Carnegie Mellon University. And essentially what they've been doing is creating a product called Earth Time, which is a platform that allows to overlay geospatial data sets on top of satellite imagery. And we use this to build strong data narratives to raise awareness around issues such as climate change, sea level rise, pollution. So here's an example here of such a story on the relationship between air pollution and the COVID-19 pandemic. And what this data story, so to speak, allows you to see quite quickly is the relationship between the spread of the pandemic and lockdown in various cities around the world and decreases in air pollution levels, and unfortunately, very often increases again once things are back into control. So this is a very popular visual that we have in our platform.
Great, thanks, Pierre. Now, let's say that you have discovered a topic that's of a lot of importance to you, and you kind of want to share these learnings out with your executives or with your community at large. We actually have that automation built into the system. You can do that by pulling what we're calling a dynamic briefing, which is essentially a PDF version of the map. So it's called the dynamic briefing because it not only pulls in for you the image of the map and then also the key issues, but then it also pulls in real-time data and knowledge pieces. So as Pierre is scrolling, you can see essentially the articles that may be featured in this dynamic briefing are all going to be current. So this is again another way to kind of spread out that contextual intelligence, because you can continue to pull these briefings periodically and share them with your broader audience. Okay, so we all know COVID is a very important topic right now. We're all talking about it. We have been talking about it. But if you're looking at this tool from more of like a foresight and kind of like discovery of like what's around the horizon, what might be of interest to you is like what's coming after COVID, and not as far as the pandemic's concerned, but just from a technology angle, what is next. So to kind of demonstrate that, Pierre and I actually observed some user data of like, what do folks actually view after they look at COVID-19? And the topics that were most popular after COVID-19 were global governance, workforce employment, and 5G. Looking at these topics kind of side by side, you wouldn't necessarily think there are a lot of similarities between these topics. But this is where the tool can provide a very useful context for you. So let's just say for the purposes of the demonstration today, we're going to look at global governance, workforce employment, and 5G in our monitor function, which you use to look at trends. Now it's kind of very easy to customize this and tailor it to your needs. So you look at the carousel up top and you highlight the topics that you want to observe the trends in. And then if you look down, you'll see what we're calling emerging themes, which are clustered. To view the emerging theme in a particular topic, you can actually click on the tile itself, and it'll show you what the machine detected topics are and which the curated topics are. And Pierre will dive a little bit deeper into sort of context on that in a minute. You can also see the amount of sources and over what period of time. That'll give you a bit more of an understanding of why this theme was created. Now, let's say I want to go vertically deep into this cluster. I can click on dig deeper and look at all the publications that actually went into creating the cluster. And then maybe I don't want to look deeper into the cluster. I'm just more interested in sort of like what's the latest knowledge that's coming out of this. Then I can look at the bottom and you see the latest knowledge. And again, it's curated to the topics that you have selected at top. So it gives you the idea of like being very vertically deep as well as horizontally relevant across that. Now I'll pass it back to Pierre, who's going to talk a little bit more about the methodology and algorithms that we use to enable the various features that we've just now presented.
So with Monitor, you've just heard the notions of curated and machine detected topics. And as Tooba mentioned, we would like now to take a pause from the platform demonstration itself and just discuss in a few slides about the methodology that we use to enable some of the features we present to you today. So one of today's most widespread information management challenge, and I'm pretty sure you all know this, is the so-called big text issue. So knowledge is embedded into text, and typically organizations have access to hundreds of thousands, if not billions, of text documents. And the question is, how do you process that data to get something meaningful out of it? So the solution to this problem is in part related to the answer to the question, how can we teach computers to read and understand text? This is obviously a very old problem. And in the past decade, there has been intense research and developments in the related fields of natural language processing and understanding, or NLP. I won't go into the philosophical considerations of what understanding text means for a machine. I think it can mean a lot of different things, and it also depends on what you're actually trying to achieve, or what is the specific natural language task you want the machine to perform on. Now, in the context of our own strategic intelligence platform, and given our objective to foster opportunities for collaborative impact, what it meant to us is the following. We wanted to develop algorithms for named entity recognition. What that means is being able to identify in text things such as people, places, topics, and the like. We also want to be able to connect things that are related to each other. And finally, we want to be able to use those results to map content items, such as articles, for example, back to these things. Now, as you will see in a minute, although mapping content at scale was one of our key goals, there are actually many other applications resulting from this framework. I also want to say that we are not reinventing the wheel here. We do rely extensively on well-established methodologies, such as word embeddings and existing named entity recognition algorithms. But we had to adapt and modify all these tools substantially to satisfy the unique content and the approach that we have to manage knowledge in our platform. Now, to explore the kind of things we could do with this approach, we actually started working 2 years ago with a young artificial intelligence company based in London called Serendipity AI. And what they've been doing is helping us build the technology infrastructure and the machine learning algorithms supporting the scalable strategy for our platform. Now, I want to illustrate some of the challenges that most of you in the room probably know that you can face when you want a machine to understand natural language. This is a popular and simple example to make the point. In this article, if we focus on the word jaguar, very quickly we understand that we're talking here about the car brand. In this second article, put aside the picture, when you read the subtitle, you very quickly understand it's about the animal. And finally, in this article, it seems that it's about a sports team, although it's one I have never heard of. Sorry about that. And so what happened here is that our brain was able to very quickly understand the different meanings behind the same word based on the semantic context that was found around that word, and of course, using some prior knowledge that we have. So the question here is, how can we expect computers or machine to do something similar, to understand semantic context? Now, I would like to demonstrate an approach with some very simple hints, and I apologize to all the data scientists, machine learning experts, and AI enthusiasts in the room for the simplicity of the argument here. Here's an example of a small text that talks about the AI tech ecosystem and essentially the key role that North America and China are playing in this ecosystem. And what you see highlighted in colors is actually the result of a named entity recognition algorithm that was able to spot some of the keywords in the text and label them according to different classes. And so, for example, you see that a company like Baidu, Google, IBM were classified as organizations. North America here was classified as a location, and so forth. So, albeit a few mislabels that you might spot in this example, it is actually quite impressive to see already what a machine is capable of doing in terms of identifying key concepts in text. Now, how can we go a bit further? And how can we, for example, build the semantic context for a concept like artificial intelligence that you see appearing several times in the text here? So the approach is the following, is let's take an occurrence of AI in the text, and let's take a window around AI and look at all the key concepts or key entities that were spotted by the machine. Now imagine not doing that for a single, small piece of text, but across hundreds of thousands, millions of text documents. You're basically creating a list of scored concepts that define the semantic context for artificial intelligence. So that's in a nutshell, the approach that you would follow. I will allow myself a huge jump to get to the actual results from our side in what we, using a language from another methodology, what we call a semantic fingerprint. So here you see examples of fingerprints for 3 entities. Klaus Schwab, a person entity, Li Qiang as well, and World Economic Forum, an organization. Klaus Schwab, for those who don't know, is the chairman of the World Economic Forum. So you can see that his fingerprint, World Economic Forum, is one of the closest concepts that can define semantically the relationship. Now, what's important to notice here is that in these concepts that define the semantic context for Klaus Schwab and for the other entities, every entity or concept here is not just a concept by itself. In fact, it has its own fingerprints. So it is a semantic context in itself. And why this is important and really powerful is because you can really start creating interconnections between these fingerprints and different entities. So what does this look like? It looks something like this, which is essentially a big knowledge graph. So you have colors corresponding to different entity types, people, organizations, and you have connections between these entities. And what's fascinating with this approach is that you always keep track of the evidence that supports the connection between two nodes. And last point I want to make is that we merge our human-created knowledge graph with the machine-created knowledge graph. And so essentially when you zoom a region of the graph and you select human creation, you're essentially going to be able to recover a transformation map. But the other way around, you might be interested in exploring what the machine has detected. And this is what you see here is a prototype that we haven't deployed yet that we're working on to allow these type of explorations. And the last feature enabled by this is the one that Tooba will now present called Create.
Thanks, Pierre. Super exciting, as always, semantic fingerprinting. Now let's take a step back and look at some of the fundamental issues that we were talking about before. We talked about how much insight there is to be gained by looking at the interconnections between different topics that we're interested in. So how do you as an individual harness the knowledge of all these different experts, all these different sources in a way that's customized to you and easy to digest? This is exactly the problem that Create was made to solve. It allows you to customize your own transformation map. So we thought in order to demonstrate the feature today, we'd actually create a transformation map based on the strategic priorities of IIM. We did a little bit of research. We looked at some publications. We looked at the website to kind of map out what some of the priorities were. And now we're going to use those to create a custom transformation map. So looking at some of the things that were mentioned, the thing that kept standing out to us was IIM aims to provide an environment of cooperation and trust. So looking at that, we can kind of blanket that under the umbrella of trust and privacy, I would say. So then you just search for the key issue and just add that to your map. Great. It also aims to bring together folks and talk about technology trends. Let's call that technological innovation. Some of the other topics were mostly around sort of digital policy as it relates to information management. So let's look at digital policy and governance. And of course, the enablement of all of this wouldn't happen without any agile tech governance. So let's go ahead and add that as well. Now, an interesting thing we can do here is like we're currently just looking at realistically like a lot of technology related nodes, but you can also add context in terms of a region here. So let's look at something in relation to a digital future in Australia. So this is truly where you're harnessing the different interconnections between, like I said before, economies, also sustainable development goals, industries, etc. Once you've inputted all the key issues that are of relevance to you, then some housekeeping items, you just create a name for the map, enter a bit of a summary for the map, add an image, and then you can save it. Now, once the map has been created, and we'll give it a moment here. When you open it up, it looks just like one of our public transformation maps. So like one of the 260 topics that we cover. Now what's great is, you can, again, look at it vertically where you kind of see all the publications, video, data that's customized to the map that you have created. So it's really good if you're mapping out your strategy to then discover some insights that you may not have already had. But then again, you can also look at it horizontally by just looking at the map in itself and some of the key influences. And as I was saying, the importance of being able to kind of not only harness the insights, but then share the insights with your community. So you can pull a briefing and then share that briefing out with your community to let them know that this is how the strategies were appointed to your custom map. So the key thing to note here is strategic intelligence is not only allowing you to customize how you're consuming your information, but what you're consuming. So it's all a matter of taking like the big funnel and just kind of filtering down from it more and more to get to something that's of immediate relevance to you. So let's now talk a little bit about, now that we have talked about some of the features, what could we do with these features? How do you actually implement them in your day-to-day life and as representatives of organizations? So one of the key use cases that we see being very popular with our business community is risk mapping. So how would you essentially use this tool to risk map? We would do what we just did, which is create a custom map based on the strategic priorities. And then, like I said, you're able to see the influences on the outer ring. And those sometimes are implicit influences. So you may discover something that you weren't already planning on and add that to your risk analysis when you're designing your strategy. Another way you can use the platform is for foresight and scenarios planning. So when you create a map, a custom map, or any topics that you have interest in, you can actually follow them in the monitor feature and then get emerging trends and themes in relation to that. So what that allows you to do is not only look at sort of where the industry is headed, but you can also take a look at the initiatives field to see what sort of projects already exist in this domain. So as you design for the future, you can kind of see what already exists and design accordingly. And last but not least, it's a great communication and engagement tool. So we all use PowerPoint presentations. We're using one right now. And sometimes you find adding too much text to these presentations and reading through them can be quite cumbersome and doesn't really read well. So an easy way to kind of depict all of your points in one single graphic would be to use a transformation map. And you can see an example here of someone using it at one of our bigger conferences. And then you can also use it for community engagement by pulling briefings, which are again dynamic, so you have the most up-to-date information and sharing that with your community. So coming back to the questions that we had started with, right? So we talked about how do we gain insights, how do we use these insights? And the third question was, how do we disseminate these insights and the importance of a community? And when I talk about a community, it could mean stakeholders that are in your immediate circle, whether it's from your business perspective, or even your broader community that you're kind of bringing along with you in the journey to discover these new topics. So part of what makes SI one of the leading tools in knowledge creation is also our community of members and digital members. And we would love for you to engage with us as well. And these are some of the ways in which you can engage. So you can sign up to get free access to our platform to browse over 250 topics. Also to note here that you can, we're also on mobile, so you can download the SI app. It's called Strategic IQ from any one of the app stores. Then if you don't want to follow us yet, you can kind of take a sneak preview into the kind of content we feature to see if that might be of interest to you. And you can do so by following us on Twitter. Our handle is @ref_intel, as mentioned here. Now let's just say you wanted a bit more of an engagement here. So you could sign up to become a digital member. Now the digital members get the same information that's available across our user base, but they get access to a couple of more enhanced features that allow for better customization, right? And these are Create, for instance, is an enhanced feature. They also get a chance to enhance our content by participating in pulse surveys. And these surveys that are related to topic areas, we actually use results from these surveys to inform input that goes into the transformation maps and also to inform the strategy of the forum in some of these topics. And last but not least, they get to participate in regular webinar briefings with our community of experts. So you can engage in sort of the conversation similar to the one we're having right now. And then if you want to engage on a more enterprise level, you can obviously email us, email Pierre or myself, or intelligence@bforum.org, and we're happy to take those requests there. So I just wanted to say a quick thank you, and I think we can move on to questions now.
Yes, our participants are now welcome to ask questions. While we wait for those questions, I'm going to share the poll results that we have received so far. So on your screens, you should see the results of the previous poll. Now, while we wait for a question, I have a question for you. When you create transition maps, how do you decide of the priorities? What are the topics of priority? Is that recommended to you by algorithm, or that needs a human input?
So creating a transformation map is a bit of a like ideation and design process, right? So you start off by initially doing a bit of a mapping exercise within your individual organization or within your stakeholder group to see sort of what the priorities might be. And then once you have, say, like a group of like 8 to 10, then you come into the platform and then you look at the current existing key issues and you pick from those and put them on the platform. So what that allows you to do is sort of harness the expertise that's already existing on the platform and just funnel it down to something that's a bit more prioritized to you.
Thank you for that. And where do you see the future of this tool? Where do you think, what is the roadmap? Where do you expect AI to lead your platform in the future?
I'll let Pierre take that.
So it's a very interesting question. And I think one of the reasons why we insist so much on this concept of hybrid intelligence is because we realized very quickly working on the technological backend using advanced methodologies of machine learning that we cannot remove completely the human element, and we do not want to remove the human element from the loop. And one of the reasons is because the forum is really a unique place in terms of the network that has been built of experts. And so we really feel like the interplay between the machine surfacing insights and the human creation always coming on top is one of the unique value proposition that we have to offer through this platform. So in terms of the future, what we do see is not that suddenly AI takes over everything and provides a fully automated framework to some extent, but that we continue improving the interplay between human intelligence and the algorithms that are in the backend. And that comes down mainly, I think, to how we are able to process the vast amount of data. We mentioned 1,000 articles per day. This number is increasing every month. Every month we have new partnerships. Every month we start looking into new academic content. And this is where AI really has a role to play in analyzing that content and surfacing the most meaningful relationships back to the user.
Thank you, Pierre. We have a question from the audience. The question is, what are your protocols for managing selection bias within the human curated elements of your platform? Tooba, can you shed some light to this?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. And the simple answer to this is using a distributed model, right? So it's like making sure that there isn't just a very small selection of humans who are doing the curation, and having it be a bit more distributed. I mean, the forum is lucky in that sense that we have a lot of internal subject matter experts who provide us with quite a bit of insight into how we're selecting some of the publications to be featured. And then the second thing is looking at then our machine curation element and kind of comparing and contrasting, what's human created, what's machine detected, and seeing where the synergies in that lie. So we rely quite a lot, as Pierre was speaking, on the internal stakeholders, subject matter experts, as well as our 5,500 group of experts as well, to make sure it's a bit more distributed out and not just like one person or two people kind of sitting there and approving the publications.
Thank you, Tooba. Are there any more questions from the audience? No, it doesn't seem to be the case. Well, having said that, I'm going to thank you, well, first of all, to thank you all the participants that joined us tonight. And again, I need to share something that is on my screen with you. Okay, so back first of all, I hope you can see the screen. Okay, so first of all, thanks all the attendees. This photo is back in the day when we were doing it face to face. Hopefully one day we'll be able to continue. But I would like to ask you to very quickly respond to next poll, which is going to give us some idea about what we can, how much do you like this session and what can you do for the next one. So poll number 2 should be on your screen now. So the question is for you is if this seminar was interesting and provided you with valuable information. Your votes, please. Okay, thank you. Majority of people have provided a vote, and I'll very briefly share the results. So most of people agree that this was great. So with that, I'm going to thank our speakers, Pierre and Tooba. Thank you for finding time. I know it was very difficult to find time because we are in 3 different time zones. Thank you for joining us, and we will be sharing any further questions with you in coming days. Again, I just want to point that this particular presentation was sponsored by the Automated Reasoning Alliance in partnership with Inari AI. Thank you for the sponsors to making this event possible. In addition, outlining that this is one of many events within the Information Awareness Month, and we are approaching the end of the month. For tomorrow, we have celebration of the successful Information Awareness Month 2020, and we welcome you all to join us for a bit of a panel dialogue that will be followed by virtual networking party. I hope Tooba and Pierre, you will be able to join us as well, where we share some thoughts. We're going to have representatives of all these organizations answering questions and having a debate on the main topic of this month, which is informed about the challenging environment we live in. Having said that, I want to thank you all for participation, and I look forward to seeing you at one of our next events. Have a good rest of the day. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye for now.
Bye.
Flying in fear, but love keeps on coming. Flying, flying. Dreams to live on the wings of happiness. Dreams to